Hey everybody, happy new year. This is Sean Tierney from Insights. And I was out last week, so this is my first day back here in 2025, and I want to wish you all a very happy new year. And with that, I got a lot of stuff I want to cover with you. Of course, I had lots of time to think about what 2024 and think about what was going on with it. And so I wanted to come back on and not only wish you a happy new year, but kind of share some of my plans for 2025 with you. And talk about what's new and what's coming and what's coming next week and what's coming throughout the year. So let's go ahead and jump into it. First of all, Happy New Year. I hope your new year, your 2025, is off to a great start. And here are my plans for insights in automation this year. And I'm going to start by talking about 2024 business reflections. It's always good to think back and take some time. And of course, I had plenty of time with layovers and, all that kind of stuff you do when you're traveling to think about what worked in 2024 and what did not. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about that because, of course, I want this company to last a long time. Hopefully you find our information educational and helpful. And in any case, I want to keep that going. So with that in mind, I also wanted to think about plans for 2025 as far as the media side, the memberships, the channel, the, YouTube, the automation blog, all of that stuff, the how-tos, the tech tips, the podcast. And that's what I consider the media side as opposed to the training side where I do my in-person and online training courses. And, I have a lot of great plans, a lot of things I want to do this year. A lot of it's going to depend on funding, right? So, money doesn't grow on trees like our parents used to always tell us. And so a lot of what I want to do, especially rebranding, new websites, new content, a lot of that will depend on funding, right? So in any case, we'll do what we can with what we got. And if we grow and things work out the way we hope they will, we'll definitely do more. And so I got a whole schedule of things that I want to do in the coming year and maybe years based on that type of funding. Now, one of the things that I want to do this year is keep in touch with all of you. I don't plan on doing a lot of trade shows. Trade shows for a company like mine is a negative, unless I'm, presenting or get a booth as the automation school to sell training. It's a negative, right? Because none of the vendors at these trade shows spend money with me to advertise their products. So it doesn't make any sense for me to borrow money from the bank to go to these trade shows to cover them. There's no funding in there that will cover that. For instance, if you do any research, you'll see that about $5 for every 1,000 views is what YouTube pays out. And so if we get, our great podcasts and our great videos will get 10,000 views, right? So just think of that. What's 10 times 5? $50. Well, you can't spend 2 days working on something if you're only going to get paid $50. Not if you're, if you're a kid, 8 years old, got a lemonade stand, that's great. But as an adult who has a business and rent and license and bills, that's just not feasible, right? And so one of the things I want to do, because I'm not going to be going to these trade shows this year or have no plans, again, a sponsor may come along, a big vendor may say, hey, we want to sponsor you to come out to this trade show, then I would do it, of course. But in any case, because I won't be there, I want to make sure I keep in touch with all of you. And so what I'm going to put up on my screen here is my business email, Sean Tierney at insightsandautomation.com, and my work phone number, 413-749-4300. Now, I want you guys to feel free to reach out to me and stay in touch with me this year. Again, we'll have to do it the old-fashioned way. Either you're visiting the Berkshires, you want to come see the office, or you just want to talk on the phone, or maybe do a Teams meeting or a Zoom, or, however you guys want to get in touch. And again, it doesn't matter if you're a vendor or a user, if you're an engineer, technician, or electrician, if you're, have many years of experience or you're brand new into this industry. I'd love to hear what's on your mind, hear your thoughts and opinions. And I should point out, I don't sit by the phone just waiting for people to call, right? So I'm typically spending my days filming lessons for the automation school or filming content for the members here on the automation blog and YouTube and our other channels. And so, I'll have to call you back. Now, I did have somebody, and again, I get random because the phone number ends in 4300, which is, other people in this area have that ending, right, with different prefixes. I do get random calls. So if you do call and leave a message, please put some information just to say, hey, this is Bob, give me a call back. So I always assume those are like a wrong number because they almost never call back. but and you get some when you have a number like that, right? And so, you say, hey, Sean, I follow you. I read your blog. I want to talk to you about, AI or whatever. And, give me a buzz and we'll chat. And so I'm trying to keep 10 o'clock a.m. and 6 o'clock p.m. open most days, not every day, but most days for 2025 to have these kind of conversations. Even if you're a vendor, a user, it doesn't matter, experienced or not very experienced. If you want to talk and just touch base, I don't do free consulting through this. Again, if I did spend my days doing free consulting, I would go bankrupt pretty quick. But I do want to keep in touch with everybody, vendors and users alike. And so feel free to reach out to me with thoughts, ideas, opinions, suggestions, anything you want to talk about. And, if you want to come on the show, we can talk about that too. The other thing is on the training side, that's where most of my revenue came in 2024. And I think most years, that's where most of my revenue came. A lot of the big companies have reduced their marketing budget and they typically spend it with the legacy media. And it's kind of funny. I'll talk about that later, but it's kind of funny because we actually reach more people. We have more views, both on the automation blog and YouTube and the podcast than these big companies like Control Engineering, like automation.com and whatnot. And so, it would be nice if at some point we could get the attention of some of these large companies. And one of the things is, they're selling to each other, right? So the big wigs at a large industrial company is talking to the big wigs at, let's say automation.com, and they're talking about, hey, let's talk about, all this stuff at the 10,000 foot view. And this channel has always been aimed right at the 5 foot view, right at your eye level, or 4 foot view, depending on how tall you are. But in any case, always, we are focused here on the actual people who use the products, not some guy in some boardroom who's going to sign some check. Those people don't interest us. What we're focused on is bringing real value, real information, real education to the people who need it. And quite honestly, that probably hurts me as a business owner because I'm not going after those, big muckety mucks in their ivory towers asking for big marketing checks. But in any case, I'm not on this planet to make bigwigs and ivory towers happy. I'm here to educate people. So I got to do what I'm here to do, right? So in any case, over on the training side, though, if you know anybody who wants training this year, whether it's online and in person, I want you to think of me. One of the things I'm doing is I'm opening up my calendar for the whole year right now, and I want to fill this room up at least 1 to 2 weeks a month. I'd like to do more, but and I want to get people in here, even if it's just for a day, even if it's just you have a new piece of hardware and you have maybe a PLC and you say, Sean, help me put this together. Now, I do a lot of that consulting work over Microsoft Teams, and especially for students who run into strange applications. But if you want to come in for half a day and have me do some consulting with you, I also can do some, anybody can go out there and buy 8 PCs, 8 PLCs, well, if you have the funds, and 8 drives, throw them together with some buttons and say they're doing training. Maybe 8 sets of, self-teach manuals, and they'll say, hey, here you go. It's all yours. Give me $3,500. You get the room for a week. Is that helpful? I'm sure for some people it is. But you know what? I want to share my 35 years experience with anybody out there who needs it, right? And it doesn't just have to be the latest version. I'm always interviewing the vendors to find out what's new with their latest versions. But it doesn't always have to be the latest stuff. Maybe you got legacy stuff you need help with. SLC 500s, PLC 5s, Remote IO, Data Highway Plus, DeviceNet, ControlNet, right? I grew up using that stuff, right? When in this industry, I got in right as, Data Highway Plus and Remote IO was in their heyday, and then got to see DeviceNet, ControlNet, and Ethernet IP come out. So if you need help with those things, I got lots of equipment here. I don't have a lot, for the training room I do have, especially thanks to some vendors like Siemens, I do have multiples like 8 PLCs, 8 HMIs, all the same type. But what I focused on when I'm, actually purchasing stuff myself is to get various different products, right? So not having all the same product. And that really helps me cover all the different things, and especially on the on-demand online training courses. But in any case, if you want to come in, it's the same price whether you come in yourself or you bring 2 or 3 buddies with you, right? And, we can come in, we can go over your applications. We can sit down and do some formal training if you want, whether you want to learn how to solve all the applications in Factory IO or PLC Logics, or you need just like basic PLC training. You want to talk about IEC 61131-3. Just let me know what you want to do. I don't want to put out a schedule. I'm at the point right now where I want to say the third week of every month is going to be ControlLogix, because quite honestly, I know there's a lot of people already doing that. So I want to work with you more on what you want to learn. And if you want to mix things, you want to do Siemens PLCs and Rockwell PLCs, you want to do PanelView Plus and PanelView 5000 and Unified Comfort Panel, I want to do what you guys need. So keep me in mind for that this year. I want to have people in here all the time. I want to make this office, which I'm renting, right? And, I have the two studios, but I also have the big training room. I want people in it every month. And so keep me in mind if you want to do any of that. And even if you just want to come in and take a tour or do an interview, maybe you have a new book or you have something, you're a new show you're premiering or, whatever. We do have the interview room set up so we can change it from the newsroom to the interview room pretty easily. In any case, in addition to that, when I'm working on the training courses, you guys probably know I'm working very hard on Factory IO. I'm almost done the preliminary stuff on that, so I get to do all the fun stuff now. But those lessons are going up all the time. So if you want to buy one of those courses, the Micro 800, you can actually use the free simulator in CCW. On the Siemens side, you can actually use PLC Sim, which is cool. So you don't have to have a physical PLC if you're traveling and you want to do this all on your laptop. But the software, Factory IO, is only $17. And for the Micro 800 and the 6500 MicroLogix, I'm only charging $25 for each of those courses to start. The ControlLogix, just because the software is more expensive, the hardware is more expensive, that's going to be $49, along with the Siemens all-in-one course. I'll try to release a S7 1200 only course later for $25, but it's going to be $49 to start. And you can buy the full license from me if you want, or you can just use the 30-day trial with Factory IO. So once that's done, I got to do a couple of short little courses, and then I'm jumping into the PLC5, 6500, MicroLogix, ControlLogix, CompactLogix, and Micro 800 courses. I want to do Factory IO and these other little courses first because I'm going to reuse some of that stuff, those software packages in the new courses that I'm refilming. Of course, I have like 20 courses already filmed and are released on the site today as well. As far as the channel, the YouTube channel, the blog, this year I'm really going to kind of like try to bring it in a little bit and focus on those tech tips and how-tos as far as the tech talks and podcasts. Now, I love doing the Q&As and question of the weeks, but that's all determined on how many questions I actually get, right? So if I'm not getting in like in December, I did not get a lot of questions, right? Some of them were like, hey, could you set up this really complicated thing and then teach me how to use it? I'd love to do that, but, it's finding the time to do that. If it's not, synced with my current content schedule, it's tough, and I don't always get to it. But in any case, those I want to continue to do. Of course, the tech tips I try to do free for everybody. Those are like the Automation Minute. And then the how-tos, unless a vendor sponsors it, right? Like we have some products that came in that I really wanted to get my hands on. Let me go back full screen. So we have some products that came in I really wanted to get my hands on. So I'm exchanging some how-tos on those for actually getting the hardware. I usually don't do that because that generates negative revenue. But I did want to get the remote access, and I did want a CodeSys PLC, another CodeSys PLC to play with. So those will be free. But then when it comes to most of the how-tos will be for the members, right? And so I want to have such a rich catalog of how-tos, all filmed 2025 and newer, that when somebody joins the membership program, they're like, I joined day one, I got access to all of this, and it grows every month. And then, of course, the Tech Talks and Podcasts. Not going to rename the podcast anytime soon because, it's the biggest industrial automation podcast on the planet. And you guys are just great. You love learning. And we'll talk more about that poll in a moment. But in any case, then Tech Talks too. We had a lot of people a lot of new people too, who just wanted to talk about AI and learn about, digital twins. And so they tuned in. A lot of people who now don't normally tune into the podcast tuned in for those tech talks I did with like Steve Mustard and other people. So in any case, we'll keep those going as well. I find them extremely interesting myself too. From there, memberships, what I did, launched a membership program last year. I want to thank all of our members. I think we got 40 members. Thank you all. You guys are great. What I did last year is I just tried to produce lots of content. And then I went back at the end of the year and looked, and most of the content I produced for members only, they didn't watch. I think what I'm getting from that is most of the members just say, Sean, you're doing a great job. I want to support you. But, they're not consuming that content. So I spent, hundreds of hours creating that content. And it's not being consumed. So I'm taking a new track on the membership where I know you guys want to support me, so that's why you've joined the memberships. But I want to give you this library of content that has a flow to it, that makes a lot of sense, that's kind of almost like your, not a common procedures guide, but really like just a useful, and I want to get members to send, tips in too, say, hey, we'd like you to cover this, we'd like you to cover this. So it's just a library of content. Really, the subscription, it gets you access to a library of content, and I still want to do the Q&As. So those will definitely be coming back as we grow. Right now, we haven't had a lot of the members show up for the Q&As. So I may merge that with the student Q&A for a while, just because if I'm going to sit an hour for Q&A, I may just do 1 hour instead of 2, right? If the members aren't available for the Q&As, then we'll just merge it with my student Q&As. But in any case, so that's that. So I'm not going to just blitz the members with a bunch of content they're not going to watch. I'm going to try to be very methodical about building this beautiful library, all new for 2025 and on, that when you become a member, you get access to, and it continues to grow, but you also get other perks as well. And from there, I also wanted to talk about social media. So this, on some platforms, this may be the last time you see me do a live stream or a video. So I looked at the engagement across all social media, and I was one of those early guys who jumped in and wanted to support all of the new social media, and I decided to support some of the legacy social media. And so I've done that, and I've had over a year to kind of reflect and see where you are, where my audience is. And so on most of those channels, I only get 1 or 2 people following me, right? So, maybe 6 or 7 on Rumble, a couple over on Getter. And even though I love these new platforms, right? And, even Facebook has been just a source of spam, not a real source of interaction with you, the audience. And so I'm looking at that. I'm going to really pare that down and really focus on, my time on where most of you are. I know we got over 30,000 every month over at theautomationblog.com. We got large numbers on YouTube and LinkedIn. So those definitely will stay in the mix. As far as the others, I'm going to pause them, not going to delete them, but I will pause them for a while because we don't have the viewership there. And being the only guy here, so, I gotta be more efficient with my time. And so even though I love a lot of these new platforms like Truth and Getter and this, that, and the other ones, Rumble, Locals, I really got to pause what I'm doing on them if there's no interaction there, if there's no, if you guys ain't there, why am I there, right? So I tried it. I gave it over a year, and we saw the results. So, and again, we can always adjust in the future if, people start flocking to one of those platforms. So in any case, and I'm not saying I'm going to stay on X either, because again, I got to look at the interactions there. All the vendors are there, but very few of you have interacted with me on X. So I got to look at that too, because I pay to be, I forget what they call it, but to get the blue check mark. And in any case, so I'm going to look at all of those. And this may be the last video on most of those platforms, because you guys ain't there. As far as the podcast, I did want to point this out. We are going to have a podcast on next week, right? And that podcast will be, we're going to review the audience choice polls. So I just went through all of the polls. I just want to thank everybody. We had hundreds and hundreds of people actually. Well, we had thousands of votes, and I know at least one of them, we got nearly 200 votes in. Those polls are now closed. Thank you for your feedback, everybody who voted. Really appreciate you guys. And so we're going to review it. Some of the results were surprising to me. Now, this isn't a scientific poll of everyone who's in industrial automation in English-speaking countries, right? What this is it's those audience members, those my audience members, those of you who actually said, I want to provide feedback. So I still find that very interesting. These are the most passionate viewers who said, yeah, I'm going to vote for my favorite vendors in all these different product categories. So that gives me feedback. The people who are actually watching and then interacting, this is what they liked. And I'm glad a lot of, and there were some prizes in there too, but I'm very happy. I want to thank you all for voting. So that's going to be next week's podcast. We'll go over that. And I think you'll find some of the results interesting. You can actually go see the results now on theautomationblog.com if you want. Now, the podcast poll, we did not have many of you vote in the podcast poll. I think 5. Okay. So we got thousands, usually 2,000 people or more tune into every podcast, right, over time. And some podcasts are big hits right away. Some grow slowly over time. I know some of you are listening to old podcasts and still haven't caught up. But in any case, So it is what it is, right? So I'd love to get your feedback on the podcast. If you guys decide you want to give the feedback, great. If you decide you don't, you're too busy. It did close out yesterday. I reopened it today. It wasn't supposed to close out yesterday. It was a copy mistake problem. But in any case, I reopened it to the 9th, but we'll cover that as well on the 8th. And I'd love to get your feedback. If you're all shy or you're just too busy to give feedback, I get it, right? But in any case, so that's what we're going to be covering next week on the podcast. Vendors who want to come on the podcast, I've just updated the media guide. I'm not going to do a 2025 edition. I don't have the time to pull up all the stats. It's just me here. So, but if any vendor wants to come on, we have actually 2 sponsorship levels now. So we're not going to do any freebies just because it's negative, again, negative revenue. So for now, we're pausing all free appearances. And so any vendor, and all the big, most of the big vendors have been very good to us, a sponsoring their appearances. And even some of the medium-sized vendors have been phenomenal. And I don't want to forget anybody, but I'm thinking of all the sponsors we had last year. And they made it possible to do it and not do it at a loss. So thank you guys. And then we get the podcast poll I was just talking about. I'm going to see. I don't know if this is going to open up on the right screen or open up at all. Let's see here. Come on, open it. It is opening on the wrong screen here. So I'm going to bring it down here. Let's see if we can go full screen. And that's in the way now. Okay, now I can see it. So in any case, this is what the poll looks like. And you can pick your favorite vendor, your favorite shows. Now I did all the way back to 201. So I didn't do 86, I didn't do 186 through 200. I did 232 back to 201. You can add it if you have a favorite episode that's on the list. You can also vote. People are liking the technical presentations and open technical discussions the best, but it's still, it's early. I'd love to get more of you to vote on it. And then I thought this was interesting. Most of the people voted for education. They listened to the podcast because they want to learn. And I think that's great because that's why I do it. I thought some people might be just listening for entertainment or, and so I thought that was great. And so thank you. Again, only a few votes there. You can see down there. But in any case, you can view the results before you vote. But love to get you guys to vote. It's very interesting to me to see what people are picking as their favorite episodes. One of the top episodes was let me see if I can just pull it up now. Again, this is still waiting for you guys to vote, but with the votes we have, people like the S7 1200 G2 and V20. I think V20 needed more details. I got to talk to John about that, but that's the feedback has been in the comments. They really wants more details, but in any case, very interesting. You can vote for multiple topics as well, but let me minimize. Let me see if I can alt tab back to the PowerPoint. You can see here, just go to automationblog.com/podcast-poll. Podcast-poll. That'll bring you right there. Or you can click it. It's right on the front page there. And you can see what the podcast is. So with that, that is all of my bullets. So again, I wanted to wish you all a very, very happy 2025. A new year is always exciting. So I'm looking forward to this new year. A lot of challenges, but I think we're going to overcome them. And I hope you overcome where you are. I know I'm going to overcome them here. You got to be positive, right? And in any case, so thank you for watching What's New in Insights and Automation. I want to wish you all a happy new year. I want to wish you all good health and happiness this year. And until next time, my friends, peace.